Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the iTunes Family Podcast. We know it's been a while, and again, it's just been due to scheduling issues that we haven't been able to record. As always, I am Teddy from the iTunes Fanboy.
I'm Tabby Cat.
And
My name is Alpha DeWolf.
as always, we are excited to join you back here for another podcast episode with a lot to talk about. And just a quick disclaimer. I am recovering from a nearly 2-week long cold, so if I cough or sniffle, then I'm sorry for that.
Yeah, what is it with you and colds?
I don't know. I'm getting them a lot now that I'm back in in-person school. That's what's with me and colds.
I used to go to public school all the time, and I basically only caught a cold once a year, and it only lasted a couple weeks, and that was it.
Yeah, it used to be. I used to get colds a lot more often, and now that but I was in online school for nearly 2 years, and so now that I'm back, it's just that my immune system isn't fully used to going out into public that much. So it's weaker, so I get colds more. But never COVID-19, weirdly.
Had it once.
I've had COVID twice.
Twice.
Um,
I may have had COVID
So,
either
the-
once or twice, but I never tested.
The first time was November 2021, and the second time was July 2022.
I had it towards end of May last summer, and it completely disguised itself as dehydration, so I had no clue I even had it until basically everyone else in the family got it, my dad being the worst. I am so sorry, Dad.
Alright, well, do you guys want to stop talking about COVID because this is not a COVID podcast? And you move on to the
Yeah, I'm
actual
more
topic?
interested in tech stuff because, boy, I think we all got a lot of stories for today's episode.
Alright, so the first
Yeah.
topic is that there's not going to be an iPhone 15 Ultra, but there will instead be an iPhone 16 Ultra to be above the iPhone 16 Pro Max, and it'll have more ports.
Why does it need more ports?
Maybe if you want to charge and
Ports?
transfer data at the same time, but I'm beginning to think
when
that a
you're
phone
transferring
above...
data, aren't you already... Well, to a USB drive, I guess. Yeah, that would make sense, I guess, yeah.
However, what doesn't make sense is that I think the Pro Max is high-end enough, meaning that the only way they can make the Ultra higher is that if they go foldable, and we all know how bad foldables
What,
are.
so- Are we gonna have 5 iPhone models next year?
In
the,
They're
2024.
already struggling with 4.
Yeah, like the, I guess the 16, 16 Pro, 16 Pro Max, 16 Plus, and 16 Ultra. Right?
There probably won't be a 16 Plus, judging by the sales of the 14 Plus.
Right, they'd probably replace the 16 Plus with the 16 Pro Max. Which I think is a bad idea, because stainless steel sides, I don't exactly like those.
Yeah, that's why I have to keep
funny,
my
I-
iPhone 14 Pro in this really sturdy outer box case.
Yeah.
I've been
I-
rocking caseless for the past, how many months now, actually, and my phone's just fine. And yes, I have dropped it on bare asphalt twice. Face down!
You're lucky.
Yeah, the
Dang,
new
that's-
screens do,
That ceramic shield is strong.
the glass will hold up. In my experience, the OLED won't, though.
Yeah, because didn't your iPhone's OLED die because or get damaged
the-
because you
Long,
dropped
long
it?
story short, the OLED died. That's all I'm gonna say about it on YouTube.
So
Well, the other thing I should probably mention is both times when it happened, it was when I got out of my car and it slipped out of my pocket.
Is there any damage to the stainless steel around the screen?
Not from a quick glance. No, not really.
One time, I had my 12 Pro Max, and it fell off my lap onto,
Oh, there's
it
one.
was like basic concrete, right? And it had a leather case on it from Apple. And there was a like dent in the stainless steel from that.
Ooh.
But when I
Yeah, leather
sold the
cases
phone,
aren't generally that protective.
yeah, when I sold the phone off, the dent was gone. So I don't know what happened there. The phone, under my ownership, the phone never cracked or anything. But then my friend went, who I sold it to, he went and he broke the screen and the back and the camera within a week of owning it. And then he got it replaced and he sold it off.
Hmm.
I mean, I could care less. Once I sold it to him, I was like, okay, you can do whatever you want with it. Not my phone anymore.
Yep.
All
I'm still
right.
trying to figure out why the Ultra phone would need 2 ports, though.
I guess
Because nobody
Maybe for
transfers
faster
files between their
charging.
phone, right?
I would have kind of an idea, if maybe if you could use an external like storage device and record directly to that, not to your phone's internal storage. Like if you're recording ProRes for a long time, you could record it directly to like a external SSD instead of to your phone's NAND flash and then copy that over to an SSD. That's the only, and you'd have to charge while doing that. That's the only way that would make sense to me.
Or if you had to, or if you just wanted to charge your phone really, really, really quickly.
Well, Apple, we already know that Apple doesn't care about fast charging.
They're switching to USB-C
Yeah.
though, so maybe they will.
I bet they're gonna keep it at like
30
18 watts or
watts.
whatever.
They probably cap it at around like the 20 watts it currently is, or something like that. 20 or
Yeah.
30. I don't remember what it's capped at now.
It's 20 right now. No, it's actually 20. I did a test and it only charged with max was 18. Normally it was 16, and that was using a MacBook Pro 140 watt power adapter. So, I think that's the biggest downfall of the new iPhones, not having fast charging, or you know, actual fast charging.
All right, well, getting back on to
Uh-huh.
what's coming this year, the iPhone 15 Pro and the Ultra are going to have Wi-Fi 6E,
That's good.
whatever that, which is apparently the next Wi-Fi.
Yeah, that's good.
I thought
'cause
Wi-Fi 7's already out or something.
Wi-Fi 7, the standard is kind of like out. Well, the standard's pretty much out, but there's just no like routers that can use Wi-Fi 7 yet. They're trying for a 2025 release date, I think. Maybe it's 2024. Definitely not this year, though. I remember that.
Because I thought that's what the new S23 series had launched with.
I know the
Because I know
OnePlus.
Samsung's always trying to get up to date with stuff like that.
I know the OnePlus.
It's
What
either
is it,
that or the
11?
OnePlus 11.
Yeah, the OnePlus 11 has Wi-Fi 7. The S23 has 6E, not 7. I just looked that
Oh,
up.
so that's still on 6.
Oh, wait.
Got it.
Oh, okay. I thought they actually put Wi-Fi 7 on the Ultra and the Plus, but they did not. They put... Huh. Apparently, the S23 has thicker bezels according to this website.
What?
Wow. It has a worse haptic motor and a slightly thicker bezel compared to the bigger Oh, that's the S23 compared to the S23 Plus. Okay, well,
Oh.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Actually, I was correct. Wi-Fi 7 is reserved for the S23 Plus and Ultra. It is so hard to find that information. If I bought an S23, I would probably buy the S23, not the Plus, not the Ultra. And that just kind of ruins the whole phone for me, because it's literally an S22 with slightly better cameras.
Yeah, but even they lowered the. But I don't know why Samsung couldn't have just made the megapixel. Had to lower the megapixel count to make the photos look better on the front camera of the S23 Ultra, because they could have easily made it look really good with 20 megapixels. They could have just easily improved the software.
Yeah. It's,
Not sure their reasoning on a lot of things nowadays.
it's whatever. Phone cameras have basically reached a peak.
Nah, there's still a long ways to go.
Well, the thing that gets me, confused is you can see these Sony cameras with the quarter-inch sensor, or no, the half-inch, I think it's like half-inch sensor in there, but they call it a 1-inch sensor. Those phones, they're still not that good. The cameras. Like, maybe if you tweak it a
No.
lot, but, I'd rather a 13 Pro over any other phone camera right now. I still think the 13 Pro is the peak.
I think the 14 Pro still has really good.
Yeah,
The 14 Pro, it does have a really good camera, and it's a lot better than my 11 Pro Max. I will say that though. My
Yeah,
only complaint with
absolutely.
it is that sometimes, especially when I'm taking thumbnails at my desk for my videos, it makes them too dark, so that way I have to lighten them up in editing. But I'm not sure if that's just. But that could also
HDR.
maybe be
Have
just
you noticed
because
the
I low.
focus distance issues that I've talked about, where you can't focus up close unless you use the far worse macro camera? The
What?
13 Pro so on the 13 Pro, 13 Pro Max, 14 Pro, 14 Pro Max, the focus distance compared to older iPhones like the 12s, 11s, 10s, whatever else, the focus distance, it can't focus up close, and it'll switch to the macro camera, which is much worse. So if you grab something like your computer mouse or, anything close and you use the normal camera and you put it like within an inch to 6 inches really, it won't focus on the subject. You'll have to get it like 10 inches behind sometimes even.
Yeah, I found I'd had to switch to the telephoto quite often to get those shots.
Yeah, and that right there I think is why the new iPhone cameras are honestly subpar. Not great compared to like the 12 series. I didn't like the cameras on the 12s, but at least the focus distance was fine. But I've heard some people say the 12 Pro Max had focus distance issues. I really liked my 12 Pro Max for the most part. Of course it did hurt my wrist whenever I used it for a long period of time, but that's just because, the phone itself, but the cameras on there, that it was pretty good cameras, I'd say. Same with the 13s really. 13 mini was disappointing though with the camera.
Well, I don't think camera was the biggest issue with the 13 mini. I'd say it had a few other things that needed to be taken care of,
If they put a
particularly
120
in one
hertz display,
department.
if they put a 120 hertz display on that, that would be perfect phone.
That really. Oh my gosh, 120 hertz on the
I had to use my
Pro
13 mini.
devices. When will that ever happen, Apple? 60 hertz
I had to
on.
use my 13 mini for a while. I can't stand it. It feels so slow because 60 hertz.
Yeah, 60 hertz, especially that the 15 and 15 Plus are supposedly going to be keeping it. That's that's not acceptable anymore at this point.
I see what Apple's doing, but it's like it. The truth is, it's hurting Apple more than it's benefiting them because people are gonna go and buy a used 13 Pro instead of a 14 now because the 13 Pro has 120 hertz. Not only that, the 13 Pro is a miles better phone than any 14 in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
No, the
Don't
14
lie.
still has satellite connectivity, so it's in car crash detection, which matter more to the average Joe, in my opinion, and you can actually buy them brand new.
Well, yeah, brand new. That's a whole different thing. But if somebody's looking at a 13 Pro that's the same price as a 14, they'll see it's got the screen's much better for one. The cameras are just on a different level. I guess the battery life probably lasts longer because it's a Pro, and it's got a more high quality build. So, oh, and not to mention it has the same processor as the 14. So,
Yeah, that's why it's so unacceptable for the iPhone 14, 14 Plus to have the stupid A15 chip that should have been gone.
the 14 shouldn't exist. 14 Plus I can kind of get, but like at that point, just spend an extra $100 and get a 14 Pro. Like it's
Actually, no, I'd say spend an extra $200 because if you want to go for the big screen, it's probably because it's actually a value.
man, like I mean, if somebody really wants the bigger display, then at that point I'd say just buy a 13 Pro Max. It's probably around the same price as like a 14 Pro. So it's
No, that
like
might actually be better. Yeah.
because I hate recommending used phones, but the 14 series is just such a disappointment. And the 13 series, I'm
Well, the
gonna
thing
say
is, you
this.
don't have to get these used. You don't have
Okay.
to get these used. You can go to other stores where they still
Yeah.
have them in stock and they're just trying to clear it out. So you can still get it for a discounted price.
And another
Yeah.
thing that I will say, the 13 series I'd say is my favorite iPhones ever. 13 Pro Sierra Blue is my favorite color iPhone, favorite everything about the iPhone. The only complaint I had about that phone was really the focus distance. And that's such a small issue compared to like the 14s that like the 13 Pro was just seriously such a nice phone.
Now, this is where I disagree slightly. Now, I do think that in terms of the regular models, I do think that the 13 series is better than the 14 series, and even some other people that I know are actually still some of my friends at school are actually getting iPhone 13, getting iPhone 13s over 14s because of how little they changed. However, however, in terms of the Pro iPhones, I think that the 14 Pro and Pro Max are better.
Well, see, the thing is, the 14 Pro and the 14 Pro Max, for one, the dynamic island takes up more space on the screen than the notch.
It
That's
does,
the
but it
biggest
works
reason why I hate it.
better.
And then for two, the cameras, I hate to say this again, but the focus distance is just so much worse. And then for three, the phone itself just feels so much worse. Like using a 13, it feels very reliable and stable. Using a 14, well, I've only had experience with a 14 Pro. I've never touched or held any 14 Pro Max that's not a demo, or 14 or 14 Plus. It's not a demo phone. But the 14 Pro, I guess in my experience, has just felt so slow and just unstable.
My 14 Pro has felt very stable, on the other hand.
What iOS are you on?
16.0.2.
16.0.2
Of
is
course,
pretty
an
good.
earlier build.
What?
It's an early build. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm gonna be keeping my 14 Pro on that.
I would.
Alright, well, do you guys like the. Remember how Alpha. So, do you guys like the. Remember how Tabby was complaining about the curved edge. The curve. The. No flat edges on the iPhones 12s, 13s, and 14s?
Yeah.
Well, the iPhone 15 and 15 Ultra are going. The 15 lineup, excuse me, is going to have curved bezels like on the Apple Watch.
Good. Now all they have to do is remove the dynamic
Yes!
island.
Yes, I just want.
That too.
They
I
just need
want
to
a
remove
simple
it
hole
entirely.
punch.
I would rather have a hole punch in this dynamic island because it's
I
the
hate
only
it
thing
too.
that I use it for. The only thing that I use it for, I used to think it's a cool feature. The only thing that I ever use it for is changing the track on my music. And that I can do from Control Center. It is.
Yes.
And multitasking doesn't matter on an iPhone. Nobody's ever multitasked on an iPhone. They close out the apps within like 5 minutes of you not using them, so you can't
So
do
do
multiple
I.
things at once in different apps. There's no split screen multitasking, and even if there was, what would that do? Half your app would get cut off pretty much, or you would have to deal with an app in a different aspect ratio. So multitasking on a phone makes no sense to me. So it just makes no sense why this dynamic island exists. It was a cool feature when I got the phone. Then I used it once and I said, okay,
It's
I've
like a
seen
3D
everything
TV.
this has to offer. Oh yeah, my TV's 3D. Haven't used the 3D part in 5, 6, 7, 8 years.
Yeah, it's through. Yeah, I even said that in my 14 Pro review. Is that the dynamic island is like a 3D TV? How often did you actually use the How often did anybody use the 3D?
We used it maybe 3, 4 times. And not only that, but the thing that really annoyed me, or really annoys me now, you have to buy a 3D DVD player. Like, seriously? In 3D movies. And it's all for that, like, kind of not even immersive 3D effect. It's just so bad. 3D TVs made no sense either.
Yeah, that's not the first time.
Something I want to point out about the dynamic island gimmick. I've seen it out in the real world with at least 2 different people. Someone at my local music store, I go and take some guitar lessons with him. He has a 14 Pro Max. And then my aunt has a 14 Pro. So obviously they have dynamic islands. And do you want to know how often I see those in action?
Never.
Zelch.
And the dynamic
I haven't even seen it work once.
The dynamic island.
Because nobody uses it.
I don't use it, and I have a 14 Pro.
It's the notch, but Apple seems to think that moving the notch down is the better option. But
we want a small hole
it was
punch
not
cut
that
out.
option.
there's only a certain amount of vertical space that we get on the phone. We get more horizontal space, or what am I talking about? I don't even know what I'm saying. I think I meant horizontal space, but they keep on trying to move the notch down. Eventually the notch is going to be like where the time is on the lock screen at some point. Because they, for whatever reason, Apple wants to make the notch thinner. Or whatever. On the sides.
Something else that I've noticed, I really hate to bring this comparison up, but you know how everyone basically unanimously agreed the Pixel 3 notch was the worst notch?
I mean, I guess.
That looks just like the iPhone 13 notch.
Connect the pill hole to the top of the phone. What do you get?
That looks a little familiar.
Yeah, doesn't it?
And I use the Pixel 3 XL. Honestly, I'd rather use that notch than this thing. Like, I got a Pixel 3 XL for literally for free a year after it came out. And I used that phone a good amount. And that notch was fine, but this just feels dumb.
Yeah.
At least we got a wide-angle camera on the Pixel 3 XL. Like, on the front of the phone.
Just complimented it.
Well, I'm not going to say the phone was that good, because obviously it didn't make me switch to Android. I used it because I had no iPhone.
I think it would have deterred people from Android from the sounds of how bad the launch was.
Yeah, I never had a Pixel 3 at launch. I got a Pixel 3. I actually just got tired of my S9 Plus, and I went to, I just sold it, got a Pixel 3 eventually, and Pixel 3 was great, but the Pixel 3 XL was probably the least memorable phone I've ever used. I don't really remember using it that much, and I used it for a decent portion. Still half the thing, actually. I mean, last time I used it was 2.5, 3 years ago almost. Yeah, last time I used it was when the iPhone 11s were still being sold. I mean, all the 11s.
Wow.
That was before the iPhone 12. That was before the HomePod Minis came out. That was before the iPad Air came out. The iPad Air 4. So, August 2020.
Just made me think. That's also before the Bixby speaker ever came out.
But
it never did come out.
That's also back when my... That's
the
also
Bixby speaker never did come out.
I know. That's
They never released the
that's
thing.
so stupid.
How long ago did they announce that?
Like 2019, 2018?
Oh my goodness.
Wait a minute. Where? Let me look this up.
It was like 2018, maybe 2019.
Let me go. Hang on, I gotta share the screen for a second. My screen for a second.
What Note phone came out when it
I think it was the 8.
What Note?
Here, I'm looking it up.
8 or the 9? I don't remember which one.
Yeah, I think it was the 9.
I know
actually.
it was announced at a Note event. Note 9.
Oh, what just happened? My whole phone screen just went yellow. I think True Tone just geeked out. I think True Tone just completely geeked out and made my phone screen like tinted.
That's night shift.
I don't have that on.
Oh, speaking of phones geeking out, I gotta ask
Wait.
you guys this.
Huh?
Have you had instances where you go to turn on your phone screen, except it's not turning on for like a minute or so?
Elias has had that issue on his 14 Pro.
Because I've had instances where I've had I still had music playing, so I know the phone's still working, but I go to turn it on because I got a text message or Twitter notification or something, and I can't turn it on.
Yeah, so the Bixby home speaker was announced in August 2018 alongside the Note 9, and Samsung said the first half of 2019, then Q3 2019, and then the Galaxy Home Mini appeared as a beta in 2019, and then Samsung has not said anything about it, and this article was published in 2020. So, I don't think we're ever going to see that thing.
I wonder if
probably good.
Samsung's
I don't
still
think so
working
either.
on it.
Why would somebody want a Bixby speaker?
Maybe Samtime would, so that way Samtime would, so that way he could show how stupid, make fun of Bixby in one of his videos.
Well,
Yeah,
due to Samsung's efforts in putting a smartphone together nowadays, I genuinely just think they don't care anymore.
And then the other thing that got me was when I had my S8. That was that was a while after the S8 came out. It was when the phone was still being sold, but it was heavily discounted. I bought one, and Bixby never worked on it. That's the funny thing. It didn't work. It did not do anything. And when I'm saying that, like, the UI will come up, then it'll say, please check your internet connection. I had internet, I had a SIM card in the phone. And then, I went and I cracked that phone on accident, and I bought an iPhone 10. And I don't regret buying that iPhone 10 at all over that S8. I mean, the only
Yep.
good Samsungs I've had were like the S10e and the S22. And even then, I'm still using an iPhone because Android is just not there for me.
Except when iOS
Yeah,
15.3.1
I'm so sorry about
released.
What do you say, Alpha?
I said, yeah, I'm glad I left Android. It was used to
Especially
be good, and
Samsung.
then it just took a dump.
One UI was where I just started to not like Samsung because
Yeah, that was when I said goodbye.
yeah, it looks like a Fisher
Even though
Price
I
toy
still
to be
have
honest.
the phone.
It looks like a Fisher Price toy. And you had the A50, right?
It does. Yeah, I had the A50.
The only good thing I can say about the A50 is there's two things. It has pretty good storage, 64 gigs, and an OLED display.
Oh yeah, that was nice though. So
it's
much
also-
about the phone that I hated was the software, especially the constant freaking notifications. Thank
Did
goodness
you
it had a
ever-
clear all button because I'm constantly pushing that thing.
Did you ever get the advertisements?
Yes.
Yeah, that's 3 days after I got my S10e, I started getting ads on it for fridges, and I was like, I'm not buying a fridge. What? And I was 13. What do you want me to do? Go out and buy a fridge? A
Apparently.
13-year-old doesn't have $3,500 to spend on a stupid smart fridge that's not going to get updates in a year.
Is that seriously how long Samsung smart fridges get updates for?
Well, considering how all the other Samsung products, They seem to say, hey, T-Mobile, AT&T, Verizon, you deal with the updates. So I guess, who are they gonna throw the updates on now? Hey, Pepco.
Well, they finally started
the
to come back and actually start issuing updates.
they're
For
gonna blame it
devices.
on like the electrical company, or maybe your water bill is gonna have to deal with the Samsung fridge updates, because technically the fridge can make ice, so it's the water company or the electrical company, because Samsung they
I love
just
how they place the blame on others. I love how they place the blame on others. It's not our fault. It's not our fault that our phones aren't selling. It's Apple's fault. It's Apple's fault that they have consumers that keep buying their phones and they're stealing all of our customers. It's their fault. It's not our fault. It's not like we did anything wrong, like remove the SD card slot or anything else of that nature or something.
yeah, and then you say, back when the 6S was still supported, the 6S would get updates at the same time as the 13 Pro Max. Tell me if the
Yep.
Galaxy S6, S7 was still supported, because those were the phones that were sold when the 6S was new. Would those get
Oh,
updates?
this was dropped long before that.
Yeah, would those get updates on the same day if they did get updates still? Would those get updates the same day as the S22 Ultra would? No. Because even my S22 didn't get updates when my S10 Plus that I had for a few months did.
Yeah, my A50 took 2 months longer to get updates compared to the S series.
Yeah, now you can have the one of the worst iPhones that Apple still supports, the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 14s, and you would get updates at the same exact time.
I didn't know. I didn't even know that was a thing with Android phones, but now I do.
Oh yeah. Android phones, they'll take forever to get updates.
Oh right,
Yeah.
And then
didn't the
the
Nothing
Android
doesn't the
users,
Nothing Phone 1 still only have Android 13 in beta?
mine is on beta, I'm pretty sure.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure mine's on the beta. But for what
Yeah.
it's worth, the beta is pretty stable.
And also, Android stays in beta forever. They announce the new versions of Android in May and then don't release them until October. That's
Yeah, I don't
almost
get that.
that's 5 months of beta.
I don't get that. It's like they don't really say when their OS is gonna come out. I think it was September for the Android. What was it? Android 10, I think. And then I remember having Android 11 pretty quickly after Android 10. I could be wrong. I don't pay attention to any of that stuff really whenever I'm using an Android.
I never know when they release because there's so many Android phones and they're always so late to actually getting them on the phones to the point where I just don't know when they officially release it.
Oh yeah, and then if they release on an unlocked phone, there's a chance that a Sprint or a T-Mobile, whatever they call themselves now, won't get the update. So, that was an issue with my S9 Plus. That was one of the reasons why I ended up getting rid of the phone. It took me 4 months extra to get One UI, and I really wanted Android 9. Then I got it, and I was like, I don't want this crap. Get this garbage off my phone, because they messed up the keyboard on One UI, so I couldn't type on the thing. So I couldn't use the phone anymore. I hated that thing after that.
Yep.
Alright, so do you guys want to move on to the next topic, which is that Apple has been caught scanning local files being stored on Macs.
What?
Yeah, they got caught doing
What?
Apple got caught doing that.
How?
Do you have more details?
Yes. So, you guys know the YouTuber Mental Outlaw?
Yeah.
So so he did a recap video, which do you want me to send his video to you guys?
Well, sure, but can you describe what exactly happened?
So there was this other guy in the tech community who who figured out some sort of app to figure out when network connections were being made, and he discovered that his Mac was trying to connect to Apple servers a lot, even when he was doing wired file transfers.
All right. Is that it?
Yep. That means that Apple is scanning local files on Macs.
Mm.
I'm not entirely sure if that's the case because
I feel like that's not the case, to be honest.
I feel like a lot of Apple's ecosystem perks are powered by their servers, so it would have to go to them to communicate a lot.
However, this guy was using wired file transfer, was doing a file transfer from his iPhone to his Mac via wires, so that way there was no need for it to go to any servers, yet it was still going to Apple servers.
I think it might have been things more like for iMessage or...
Nope, it was strictly only Nope, those at least as I know, those apps were all closed out. It was going to Apple. It was I'll send.
Oh, just because they're closed out doesn't mean they're still running in the background. Otherwise, how do you get notifications for things like that?
Oh.
I don't know. I just doubt that Apple would do something like that, especially when they say they're so privacy focused.
I mean, I don't believe that they're... I mean, Google says that they're privacy focused, and we all know that they're not. And even Meta says that they're privacy focused, and we know that's not true.
Google and Facebook are, Google and Facebook.
Yeah.
Well, let me go on.
I think this is a classic case of... I want to be the next... Oh, screw you, Apple! I just discovered you're just a pile of crap! I think it's a case of that, to be honest. Especially from
honestly, that is
what I'm being described.
That is... You know what? Let's just cut that part out of the podcast.
Sure. I think it's okay to talk about stuff like that. Exposing the truth behind someone trying to make the headlines.
No. Let's leave it in, actually. Alright, so Apple is also not actively working on a new HomePod Mini at the moment. So that means that means that the HomePod is probably not going to get updated for a long, long time.
It's a smart speaker. How exactly do you update it other than add either additional audio equipment or, I guess, if they were to update it next, remove additional equipment, per se?
I think they need to work on Siri, because Siri doesn't help me with anything. Siri's just kind of useless.
That's really the only thing they need to work on with the HomePod Mini. It's just the software, specifically the virtual assistant.
I'm not going to say Google Assistant is good either, because I was on Android Auto, right? And I said to Google, locate me to a restaurant, right? And it tried giving me information about something completely else. Like, if I'm driving a car, why am I going to need to know stuff about a holiday? Like, seriously? Are you kidding me? You're going to tell me information about a holiday inside a car instead of looking for places? Like, come on.
By the way, the temperature and humidity sensor now works in the HomePod Mini.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, I guess.
Because last time I tried it and it didn't work, but...
Do you have a HomePod Mini?
A couple days ago and it works. Yeah, on my desk, right here.
Hey Siri, what's the temperature in here?
It's 63 degrees Fahrenheit in the basement.
I guess it's 63 degrees Fahrenheit in here, so...
Oh, it's a little warmer than that.
Hey Siri, what's the temperature in here?
It did not work?
It went through my Mac. No, it went through my Mac.
Oh, of course. My HomePod's on a
That's
shelf
funny.
behind me.
72 degrees in here, it said.
Yeah, I got a HomePod behind me on a shelf, and it default to the HomePod before my phone, so that's good, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I triggered the HomePod responded to me, but because I have my AirPods on, I think it's decided, just send it to the Mac.
Yeah.
That's funny. That is funny.
All right. Well,
It does work though. That's my point.
we've got some good news. We've got some good news. Apple is indefinitely delaying their plans to make AR glasses.
Pretty good, I guess.
I'm not entirely sure if that's good or bad news, but
It's
it's
either
like
one,
the-
really.
No,
I don't
actually, you know what? I'm
really
gonna
see,
take that more as bad news. Actually,
Yeah, those
I
could
mean-
be really innovative.
it's more
I
important
don't
than
really
VR.
see a... I don't
Yes.
really see
Apple's working on a budget $1,500 mixed reality headset made out of less premium materials.
Not interested.
Neither
Working
am
on a
I. The hourglasses, they are a cool invention, but I'm just not sure how you would quite navigate them.
Mm.
So I don't really see much of a use for them outside being used to display things.
Well,
Eh.
the easiest way I would navigate them is brushing the sides of the frames. I think that would be the best way to do it, honestly.
They'd probably they'd probably say no. Let's use Siri to navigate them. And hand gestures.
Oh, that would
Because
not
every
go
tech
well
company
at
has
all.
to
I
have
mean, the
one
Echo
go at
frames
hand
already
gestures.
do that.
Look at the so how many times do tech companies have to try hand gestures? We had Google, LG, Samsung, who else? GoPro, DJI, I am sure.
BMW.
Who?
I kid you not. BMW.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, they have gestures to control the radio system and the infotainment system.
now tell me, do we have a Google Pixel phone like the Pixel 4 with hand gestures? Nope. Do we have an LG phone? Wait,
Not anymore.
I'm pretty sure it was LG that. Yeah, does the LG...
We don't even have LG phones anymore.
Yeah, does Samsung still have the S4's hand tracking? No.
I didn't even know it had that.
Oh yeah, it was one of the biggest features of the S4, but, you know, it was useless. 'cause
Apparently not, because
I'm pretty sure, you know, it just didn't work right. Or maybe it did and nobody used it.
I've never even knew that existed, and I actually have an S4.
Yeah, it existed. They might have removed it with a software update. I don't know.
Did they remove it with a software update?
I'm not sure.
Let me go grab my S4, actually.
Yeah, Logan did a video on the S4, and, yeah, he talked about the hand gestures and stuff.
Yeah, I'm booting up my S4 right now to see if it has anything in settings for hand gestures. Hey, it's not making any noise when it boots.
Hmm.
Not normal.
I guess that's one thing. I guess that's one thing that iPhones never did that I'm glad about. iPhones don't make a ton of sound whenever you try turning them on.
I kind of wish they had the Mac chime, if I'm being honest, but that's just me.
So
The
do I.
iPhones? Yeah, it would kind of be cool, but I don't know. The iPhone just seemed like a type of device where you don't want it to start making sound whenever you turn it on. It'd be cool. It would be a cool option though. Like maybe something that you can enable. That would be cool.
Yeah, I'd like
Oh,
that.
yep. Motions and gestures.
Suggestion for iOS 17, Apple.
Motions and gestures right here. It's got it. My S4 has it.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Control your phone. Okay. Samsung? Hello, Galaxy, wake up.
Did the thing die?
It was 18%, but its battery is degraded. And it's showing this screen. It's
What,
still a
battery
little bit.
screen?
Well, I wouldn't waste too much time on that now, because we've still got a rest of a podcast to get through.
Yeah.
Oh, it crashed. Okay, that's... Okay, that just goes to show you how useless it was. Okay, so... The Mac Studio may not be getting future models.
Mac Studio?
Just makes me wonder why they did it. Yeah, the Mac Studio.
Why not?
Because they're going to use it as another stopgap like the iMac Pro before the new Mac Pro supposedly comes out.
Well, why? The Mac Studio makes a whole lot of sense. The iMac Pro made sense too.
Yeah, it did!
The Mac Pro, I hate to say it, but the Mac Pro might be the thing that they might want to,
86.
they kind of they can't get rid of it because so many people rely on it. But
They might want... The Mac Studio still does in the iMac Pro. The iMac Pro especially, I actually kind of want... It would be nice to have an iMac Pro, I will say. And I might even buy one if they make it
agree. I would.
online.
It's a video I got in the pipeline, actually, that I still have to get through editing. I got so much editing to do.
yeah, right now I want to edit, but I have nothing to edit because I literally got a Mac Studio yesterday.
Oh,
Exciting.
yeah. One, let's segue into the next topic, which is Tabby's new Mac Studio.
I finally got the computer that I've been wanting for... Since it came out, I've wanted this. This has been the computer that I've wanted ever since I first saw the computer's announcement. Because the Mac Pro, that's too expensive. It doesn't have the performance I want. It's got way more performance than I would need. And then, this thing is just the perfect in-between. And actually using it, it's such a nice price because you're getting the M1 Max, 32 gigs of RAM, for less than the base model, I believe the base model 14 or 16-inch MacBook Pro. Does the 14-inch start at $2,000 or $2,300?
2000.
2000, so it's actually the same price.
So for the same price, you're getting a much better CPU, much better GPU, I believe, because I think the GPU.
Oh
is
yeah, you're
better.
getting like double the cores.
Yeah, and you're getting double the RAM. See, the one, I got the base model, but still, you're getting double the RAM. See, like what? 6 more ports because you're getting 2 more USB-C on the front, 2 USB-A, one of which is being used right now, but I really don't need to be using it, and HDMI, 4 Thunderbolt, 2 USB-C, SD cards. So yeah, it's like
10 gig
it's something-
Ethernet.
Oh yeah, 10 gig Ethernet too. That's something that's really nice.
That's a big one in the desktop space.
Yeah, because I was using a dock which only had 1 gig Ethernet, and I could go to 2.5 gig Ethernet, because I actually have 2.5 gig Ethernet apparently. It doesn't really do that much, but
Sweet.
yeah, well, I have it, but it doesn't
I ain't
work
got
on any
that
of my
luxury.
computers. I guess now it would work, but
Well, now it does.
yeah, I just need to buy one of those expensive network switches, don't I?
Probably.
You don't have to spend that much money on them.
Yeah. I mean, I did go to Micro Center.
I found the cabling is more expensive for that. I was thinking about potentially running Ethernet throughout the entire house here, except that unfortunately fell through and never happened. And so I'm still stuck on the crappiest Wi-Fi ever, especially considering I'm on the opposite end of the house.
How'd it fall through?
Despite that, I asked the family, "Hey, should we all pitch in and get the whole house wired up so A, we can decongest the massive amount of wireless devices we have here, B, get Wi-Fi speeds consistent around here, and C, well, just all the advantages of Ethernet."
So would you have a
Oh yeah, and to
professional
connect
install
to
it?
our other stuff. We also need Ethernet to connect to the wood stove out there so we can get readings from it in the house
Huh?
instead of having to go out in the cold all the time.
Your stove uses Ethernet?
Yeah, it does actually.
Oh, God, what?
It's a custom built solution. It's great.
Yeah.
If you love engineering, you gotta see the stove.
Yeah, but are you gonna, or were you thinking about getting it professionally done or just a DIY job?
DIY. But I asked, should we all pitch in and get the whole house networked properly, hardwire networked? And it turns out I was the only one who wanted to do it, and I just didn't have the budgets to allow me to wire things up. And now, unfortunately, a spot I really wanted to get by quote-unquote fire escape, that's not really a fire escape, has been sealed off from the rest of the house, so...
Why did it get sealed off?
Because behind this wall, actually, is the new laundry room that's supposed to be added to the house. It's still a work in progress, but it's sealed off now.
You know what you could do? Is there a clear path to your room?
No, actually there isn't.
What all do you have to go through? Because what you could do, you could just put it along the baseboard of the wall, not even really drill anything in the wall, just clip it onto the baseboard, and you can go down to Home Depot, get 100 feet of Cat 6 or something, Cat 6E, I guess, for like $30. That's what I did, and I just have Ethernet running down to my basement, and then I just slipped the Ethernet under the carpet in my basement, and nobody really can tell unless they look upstairs where there's hardwood. But
Well, my problem is I need the distance, and this is a not extremely big house, but it's a fairly decent sized house, and I need the distance. And that's when it gets really expensive in terms of cabling.
how many feet do you think you'll need?
200, 250 feet or something like that.
That's not that bad, because
It was still more than what I wanted to spend.
how much was the 250-foot cable?
I don't remember. I haven't looked in such a long time.
What you could do is you could go to Home Depot, buy 200-foot cables for now, and, because I remember you saying that you're planning to move eventually, and
Yeah.
you
Well,
can
you're
just...
saying there's a Home Depot nearby me, by the way.
Oh. Well, I'm sure Amazon
Yeah.
has them. And
In case you
can...
forgot, I live in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, I thought that...
Nope, middle of nowhere, Michigan. That's where I live.
I would think there would be a Home Depot somewhere around there, because I guess a lot of people do DIY stuff down there.
Best we've got is a Lowe's, which is 2 hours away in Marquette.
Oh. Well, I guess you could try Amazon, and you can just get a coupler, and you can just strap two cables together, essentially.
Hang on, I've got Alpha. So do you remember the video where Quinn from Snazzy Labs was remodeling most of his garage to be used as a home gym, and do you remember what he did for his networking?
No, I don't actually.
So what he did was, because obviously he couldn't run an Ethernet cable from his house to his garage, which is not part of his house, and he couldn't also run, and the Wi-Fi range was too spotty. So what he did was he got a wireless Ethernet cable where he plugged one in and into the part of the house where all the good Wi-Fi is. Then you plug the other end into wherever you want, like your room.
Repeater.
Yeah, but there's still
internet
way
repeater.
too much interference the way the house is laid out.
There is a lot of interference with Quinn's house too.
I'd say you should maybe try one of those power line things. Because I've never had one. I don't see how they could work, but people say they work. Those things that apparently use your electrical outlets to create an Ethernet connection or something like that. It's really weird, but like you plug one in near the router and you put it into Ethernet, and then you plug one in wherever you want, and it's just like a Ethernet repeater, I guess.
I would only think that would work on outlets on the same circuit. And my room has its own dedicated circuit.
Like a box or circuit? Like one of those
Circuit. Everything all goes to a box, but that box sprouts into many different circuits.
Using electrical... I'm looking it up. It uses electrical wiring in the house, so you should do some
I would think it would only
and...
work on that same circuit and not others, because if one circuit trips, all the others are still running just fine.
Yeah. Yeah, same with my house. They got a bunch of different circuits.
I don't know how the circuits are laid out in my house.
I've kind of had to study this as
do you
I'm
lose power in
studying
different
electric
parts
vehicles and charging them.
Do you guys lose power in different parts of your houses?
We haven't lost power in probably 10 years.
Lucky.
Or do you...
Yeah. The only way that our entire house would lose power is either whoever's giving us our power, which unfortunately comes from such a great distance in a completely different state, which is why our electric rates are so freaking high. Either they stop supplying us power due to, well, them shutting down, which I highly doubt, or most likely weather, or if somehow we manage to overload every single circuit in the house and it trips the main breaker.
Yeah, I think my house only has one circuit, so that something like that would work, but the Wi-Fi range isn't as spotty in my house to need that kind of thing, since my house is fairly small.
Your house is on one circuit? Is that even up to code?
I don't
My house was built back in 1905.
Yeah, so...
It's outlets.
They do work on different circuits. I don't know. I sent you a picture. Screenshot, I mean.
Also, my house clearly still doesn't have fully up-to-date electricity because a lot of our outlets are still two-prong and a few of the outlets back in July 2020 started sparking in my house, including the one in my room right next to where my desk is now, which hence prevented me from moving my studio into my bedroom at that point. So now So yeah, maybe our house is on one circuit.
That's weird.
And it could just be relying on old code.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I get what it's saying now. So they can't work on multiple circuits because it's going to the same breaker box where every single circuit goes, because that's where they all get their power. Except if it's on different circuits, which in my case would be that case, performance would be reduced. So at that point, what's the point? It would just be like me getting wireless up your head. It becomes pointless at that point. So interesting technology, but
yeah,
I don't think it'll work well in my application.
Again, I highly doubt. I'm not an electricity expert, so I doubt that my house is only on one circuit. But yeah, usually when my house loses power, usually it's the whole house. Alright, well, I've got only one more topic to talk about, which is my school Chromebook incident on Friday.
what happened?
So on Friday, I was in science class, and I was just and we had to do something in science class that required a Chromebook. So I had to grab a Chromebook from the cart. And the first one, usually I have a little bit of trouble getting them to boot because they don't like to boot oftentimes. But eventually I can get them to boot most of the time. But that one just would not boot at all. And so after telling my teacher, I went to go grab another Chromebook off the cart. My teacher told me that one wasn't working either. And so then I put that one back. And then I got a third Chromebook from the cart, which booted up, but it refused to connect to my school's Wi-Fi. And so then I had to return that Chromebook, and then I had to get a fourth Chromebook, which finally worked fine, but a little slowly. But that set me back about 10 minutes.
Oh, it's not as bad as my 45 minutes with printing on Windows 10.
Oh, yeah. That was... I hope I know. Luckily, they have iMac. They have at least some Macs at my high school. At the high school I'll be going to, so I won't have to deal with that. And I'll just print it. And if I need to print something, I'll just print something at home ahead of time. No, my printer at home isn't great.
You know, this made me think... I thought about something just now. I watched one of our older episodes a little while ago, because...
How old was
I
it?
Something to occupy my ears.
What episode was it?
The 3D TV. 3D... No, not the 3D TV. Touchscreen TVs. That's what it is. I understand why your school doesn't have great computers. They're blowing all that budget on touchscreen TVs.
Yeah. Or my school does upgrade computers, but they're just crappy.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, yeah. They flew it. That's the only touchscreen TV in the school, luckily, and it looks like it's very old, but still, from before schools even had Chromebooks. But yeah. The touchscreen. I find it funny how none of the other...
Some kid just texted me with some weird crap.
What?
I just got a weird call, and then some kid texted me saying, "Hello, Tedward."
The Jewish hacker
Who is
is
that?
back.
How did he...
Don't ask.
I'm pretty sure he got my iMessage email.
I have no idea how the Jewish hacker comes.
One thing I forgot to mention. After you guys are done, I'll tell you.
What is it?
My phone's battery health dropped to 98 now.
Huh.
So that's just something interesting. It went to 99 late last month, and now it's at 98, so...
My 14 Pro, I don't know if it's 100 or not, and I can't check because I'm using continuity camera.
Alpha, what about your 13 Pro Max?
I don't check anymore because I genuinely don't care, but if you're interested, let me take a look.
Yeah, I don't want another incident where like with your Apple Watch Series 7 where we thought it was at 94% health and it's still at 100.
100%?
Yeah.
Yep, 100%.
That's cool. Alpha does take good care of his batteries, to be fair, for his XS Max remained at 100% for such a long time.
Yeah.
Like a year,
I
right?
think it started...
Like a year or something like that?
Yeah, it remained at 100% for about 13, 14 months or something like that. So, I guess I just get lucky with that stuff. Either I don't really abuse it as some other people, or I don't want to say I charge it more correctly. I mean, warming batteries up I know helps charging, because that's how you have to charge electric cars. You have to warm them up. They only charge when they're hot. And so I would think phone batteries would be the same, but obviously at a much lower scale.
See,
And
my batteries... I tested this phone, the phone's battery, as much as I possibly could, because every time I used this phone, I tried to drain the battery the quickest I could to see how quickly I could drain the 14 Pro. Because I wanted to see, do these phones actually, last like 2 hours like some people on Twitter say? No, they'll last, the quickest this thing is drained was 4 hours at least. 4 hours and a half. So the battery,
Wow.
this is, I've used this phone longer than any other phone in the past few years. So it just makes sense why the battery on this thing would be a bit lower. Because, I've never had a 13 series device drop in battery health, so yeah.
Well, do you guys have anything else you want to talk about on this podcast? Because I ran out of topics.
That's about it for me.
Oh, I had an interesting experience a couple weeks ago.
What was it?
What is it?
Saturday night. Did you see my tweets? And
Oh
posts
yeah,
on
you
my
got to
Drive
ride in
channel?
a Tesla Model Y.
I finally did
2021.
it! Oh, it was so awesome. Yeah, I don't know if you guys be interested to hear some of my impressions on it, but yeah, I finally got to do that.
Did you like it?
Like would be an understatement, and even love would be an understatement.
Oh no.
I was absolutely blown away with it. So, a little backstory. The reason why I basically was not available that entire weekend was because I had to surprise my aunt for her 60th birthday. And so we got together the family actually booked an entire theater, and we're saying, we're going to have a karaoke night. We're going to have a karaoke night. And so we all got to the theater for karaoke night. And then one of the guests that comes pulls up in a Tesla Model Y. I'm like, oh, that is so cool. And then the guy walks in and said, hey, nice car. He says, great. Would you like a ride? I couldn't say no. And so I got to ride in a Tesla Model Y. And an interesting thing about that particular one, that owner was one of the original 1,000 people to first receive FSD beta.
Wow.
So that was a
back when it was
fully
truly
software
beta.
kitted out vehicle. Yeah.
Now it's
So-
not beta anymore,
Yeah, so-
no matter what Tesla says.
Yeah. So, all right. So here's some of my impressions of actually being in a Tesla for the first time. So first things first, once the car gets going, we never actually went above 30 miles an hour because we're in like downtown. So never went above 30 miles an hour, but even slowly accelerating, you can feel those motors have so much more potential. Like, you can tell this isn't even the best of what the motors can do. And I felt that every single time we were accelerating, which is such a weird feeling. And the other thing about it that I wanted to note as well is, I've sat in a Cadillac before. Actually, I've drove a Cadillac before. And a Cadillac, they have comfortable seats. But the seat of the Tesla that I rode in was not adjusted for me. It was adjusted for the driver's wife. So it wasn't adjusted for me. I was actually more upright than I prefer. But even sitting upright in a position that I typically find myself uncomfortable in every single other car,
You were comfortable.
that was more comfortable than a Cadillac. That seat was more comfortable than a Cadillac.
You know what they always say about what the EV movement is all about. It's no longer your fancy gimmicky sports cars and your Cadillacs and whatnot that are the fastest and the best performing cars in the whole wide world. Now they're electric cars. Teslas specifically.
Oh,
And my friends who are all obsessed with guys. I told them that the Tesla Model Y is the fastest car in the world, and they
Model S.
Or okay, that's a bit of a fall. But I told them that the Tesla was the fastest car in the whole wide world, and they thought I was stupid because they didn't think
From
that
0 to
was,
60 time.
they didn't think that was possible. What noise is that?
Yeah, so... Huh?
Noise is that?
Oh, the noise. That's the garage.
Oh, I've never heard it before. That was
You never heard it before.
I've never heard the garage door open before on your end.
It's opened before many times.
Huh. Never noticed it. I thought maybe that's some of those weird noises that we make that we thought previously were just Tabby's microphone issues.
Yeah, that was an interesting noise to keep on hearing.
I think it was my cat.
No, I heard water.
Yeah, well, my cat's got a
I
water
heard
bowl
water.
down here.
Oh well, we don't hear it
Makes
now.
high-pitched noises.
Yeah. Whenever it's refilling, like, the water thing, because whenever he drinks some more comes out of, like, the little, like, fill thing, and it makes some sort of, like, weird, like, noises sometimes. But I've always got AirPods Pro in, so noise cancellation.
That's what's been that weird noise this whole time. For the 10-month-old mystery is finally solved.
There you go. Well, that's kind of cool. But yeah, other impressions about the Tesla that I'm trying to keep remembering here. Minimalism is definitely the theme of the inside of the car. And he had his own stuff in it. The center console was full of stuff and all that. But despite that it was full of stuff, it still looked clean and minimal. It's so hard to make it look like it's a mess. Which was a weird thing to see. My car, on the other hand, it's easy to make that look disgusting and messy and such.
Well, Red Fox is a terrible car, so I'm not surprised.
Oh, me and that car need to have a few words, if I'm being honest.
Are you sure it'll be able to? Are you sure it'll be able to keep running to understand you?
Well, the engine is going pretty strong, so I'm not concerned about the engine. I'm not concerned about the transmission that much either.
Or are you sure that the wheel bearings are
it's-
going to keep going?
Well, here's the thing. That wheel bearing that I thought was... Yeah, there was a wheel bearing that had triggered the sensor because the wheel had stopped moving, so therefore the computer's freaking out. But when I had disconnected the battery from the car to swap out the alternator and then reconnected the battery, all the faults cleared.
Hmm.
And it has not come back ever since.
Well, that's good that at least Red Fox is somewhat working.
Yeah. Oh, I can't tell you how good it feels to have heat in the car again.
I'm not surprised. I don't know what I'd do without heat in my car in the winter.
Oh. And you live way further south of me where it's not as cold as up here.
It's barely cold at all over here.
Yeah, it's actually going to be a little bit colder in the next few days.
It sort of felt like summer today. It was like 60 out, I think. Maybe like
It was
70.
around 60 out where I am, too. Though it got colder as the day went on.
It was a really
at
nice day out today.
55.
I didn't... And
Now
my
it's
dad's
50,
calling me.
49.
I'll be back in a minute. My dad's
31
calling
degrees here. Getting colder.
We had 3 snow days last week, and now it's warm outside. What on earth is going on?
I have no clue. Well, in terms of... I'm trying to think. What other impressions do I have? Other than that was pretty much it. Yeah, just the things to note are the seat is way more comfortable than even the Cadillac I drove. The whole. Oh, one other important thing I need to distinct. You know how everyone says the Model 3 and Y and all Teslas, they all have a giant screen. It's the biggest displays that you'll find in the car industry.
I'm guessing that's not the case.
Keep in mind, the Model 3 and the Y, they have a 15-inch display, which is smaller than the laptop that we all use, our 16-inch MacBook Pros. So you have to keep in mind that the display is actually smaller than that. It's not as huge as everyone else makes it out to be. Now, is it bigger than every other car's infotainment display? Oh yeah, definitely, by a long shot. But it's not as big as I was expecting.
Well, that's not a surprise. You can't make it too big to not make it distracting.
Yeah. So.
In a rental car that my grandmother actually drove when she was traveling, she saw that there was even a little system on a window where you could see basic information like your speed, which is pretty handy.
Heads-up display. Mm-hmm.
Which is pretty handy compared to having looked down at the dashboard like all my relatives have to do now with their cars.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, and I guess one more note that I need to add.
I'm back.
I checked some polls on Tesla for adding superchargers. My town ranks number 49 in the entire North America, which is kind of exciting. Because 3 months ago, it was 110. Towards the beginning of January, it ranked 63. And as of right now, it's around 49.
What's
going to be, you're definitely going to get them now. Which means it'll be handy for you to own a Tesla.
Oh, yeah. Except I might not be here in Michigan by then.
Are you going to be moving?
I've been thinking about where I wanted to move to, and I've got a much better idea of where I want to go now.
Colorado?
No, not Colorado, actually. That was an initial thought, but I decided against it because of the only time you're going to get to see Colorado's beautiful scenery is if you go into the Rockies, and I don't want to go into the Rockies. And so that leaves you with mostly Great Plains looking scenery, which is, well, not exactly the prettiest sight to see. So because of that, I ended up ruling out Colorado. And I'm now looking at North Carolina, actually.
Hey, editor Alpha DeWolf here. Yeah, we said some stuff, and you guys are not allowed to hear this stuff. And this right here is where the stuff used to be. Alright, now that stuff has been said, back to the show.
Yeah, I haven't fully decided yet, but I'm leaning a lot more towards North Carolina because I'm liking the weather patterns that I'm seeing. I'm liking the scenery that... I've been watching a lot of road trip videos, and in those road trip videos, it's showing off the scenery of, well, driving down the highway and such, and North Carolina is looking very appealing to me at the moment.
Have you ever considered moving to the land of the iTunes fanboy?
Sort of, but actually no, not really, but my sister has.
Hey, editor Alpha DeWolf here. Yeah, we said some stuff, and you guys are not allowed to hear this stuff. And this right here is where the stuff used to be. Alright, now that stuff has been said, back to the show.
Are you guys ready to wrap up now?
Yeah.
What time is it? Yep, definitely, because I'm the one who has to edit all this.
And I'm not.
Alright.
And then we're ready for the Jewish hacker to leave us alone.
Yeah.
So as always, thank you all for watching this video, or watching or listening to this, tuning into another episode of the iTunes Fanboy Podcast. As always, I am Teddy from the iTunes Fanboy.
I'm Tabby Cat or Tabby Pears, whatever you want to.
Yep, my name is Alpha DeWolf from the Random Alpha Network.
And as always, we are saying goodbye for now.